Good afternoon. What's up, beautiful people? It's your girl, Leanne. I am back in the swing of things with my beautiful friend, Andrew Rezmer of Conscious Living Radio. Hi, Andrew.
Hello.
So we are so excited because we have been bouncing off each other's brains and astral projections and abilities to grow, to serve, to love. In our last series, where we were working with joint ventures with shining the light on that series, we're moving into a new series. And I know you're excited because I'm sure you're learning new things about yourself. So reflectively, in this podcast series, we'll be focusing on some of the things that we learned from shining the light with joint ventures into deeper rooted thoughts, feelings, expansion. And so this is going to be called the Heart-Based Community Podcast Series. And this is number 1. So with that being said, Andrew, I want to welcome you into role playing with me, and we'll be discussing what is consciousness on for the individual and the community. And I'll just give a little highlight of what the dictionary says about consciousness, and then we'll go into our own personal journeys with it. So what is consciousness? It's aware of and responding to one's surroundings awake. So Andrew, why don't you guide us a little bit through your feelings for the individual and the community with this topic, with consciousness?
Thank you. Yeah, I think it's a good way to start. It's a good place to start. It's almost like a foundation because our experience of this world, our experience community, our experience on relationships, everything is based on our own perception of consciousness. What are we aware of and what we're not aware of? So I'm glad that you suggested that we start with kind of almost like defining what is consciousness, difference between unconsciousness and consciousness, the difference between subconscious and superconscious, or all of it together. And I know you're very passionate about cosmic consciousness as well. So let's talk about that. So yes, there's a Webster definition of what consciousness is. It's just being aware of what's happening in the moment right now. But even that awareness, because there's million, there's different scientists throw different numbers. There could be, thousands of different impulses of information that are surrounding us right now, and our body, our senses are receiving this information, but we're aware of very small amount of it. I'm aware of you being there on the screen in front of my computer. I may be aware of the temperature. I may be aware of some noise if something happens, but there is millions of other things that are happening, and we're either unconscious of it or it's subconsciously we're repressing it. For example, my heart is beating right now, and I'm breathing, and I'm not conscious of it. It's kind of doing itself. My body is doing itself by subconsciously. It's programmed to do that. But if I put my awareness, I can be aware of my heartbeat. I can be aware of my breath, for example. So I can bring my awareness from parts that are subconscious to conscious if I put my emphasis, if I put my focus on that. So that's an important distinction, that subconscious is something that we actually have access to. We are just not accessing because we may not need to access it. So an example of the difference some people use is like a iceberg, and that is floating in the, let's say, in the ocean or somewhere in the water. Only 5 or 10% of it is actually visible. The rest of it is hidden under but it still exists. And if we put our attention on it, we can uncover that. And that's a subconscious and consciousness. What is unconsciousness? For me, at least that's how I like to describe it, is the current that is actually moving this iceberg. And the iceberg is not aware of it. And only until you go into super consciousness, if you go above the material, if you go above the mental, if you go above the emotional, if you almost have this bird view, you can see, oh, that iceberg is actually moving, pushed by a current that is inside this ocean. And so the unconscious could be let's go from the iceberg to human. So I may have had some, we can have some traumatic experience in our past. And it's so traumatic that we push it to completely unconscious, or could be something even from previous generation, could be something that our mom have experienced, and her behavior, her fear of whatever happened is going to be transferred to us based on her communication. And may not be aware that we're afraid of something, or we have certain value system that is formed based on something that we're not aware of, because someone else fear is transferred to us. So that's unconscious. I remember I had this friend who was, she was planning to fly to Europe or whatever, and usually a few days before she would say, "Oh my God, I have to cancel my ticket." Why? Oh, because I have intuition, which is another word for super consciousness. I have intuition that there's going to be a crash. And obviously there was no crash. And obviously that wasn't intuition. It was something that was from her unconscious, some fear because of whatever happened in the past. She was afraid, and her conscious mind was trying to justify her fear using the label of intuition.
Wow.
Right. So it was unconscious, trying to expressing itself in a fear, but because she was trying to be as conscious as possible, she would say, "Okay, I have intuition that is going to crash." So it's a very delicate and very sometimes complicated to distinguish between conscious, subconscious, and superconscious, and your favorite cosmic. Consciousness. And there's another example I remember personally. I remember I was in Peru, organizing this trip for friends. I think there's over 20 of us going to Peru to attend a few ayahuasca ceremonies. And in the ayahuasca ceremony, we usually start our ceremony before we actually drink the tea, ayahuasca tea. We start with intention. What is our intention? Why I'm doing this for? And normally I have my intention planned, and I have, lots of thought and energy put in. So I'm actually doing it consciously. But because it was, I think, like fourth or fifth ceremony in the row, and my role was a host, so I was busy arranging food, trips, whatever, and came to the meeting. And normally, if you imagine the group sits in the circle, this shaman sits in one side, let's say at 12 o'clock, if it's a clock, and I would sit across from the shaman or from the ayahuasquero at 6, so like in the middle. So usually it takes about 40 minutes for all of people. So it's first person next to the shaman gets up and drinks ayahuasca, gives their intention, the next person next. Now, normally I sit about 20 minutes away from the starting point to drink my medicine. But this time I was late. So I come into the room, and everybody is already sitting, and the only seat available is just the first seat, right? And so I'm kind of scattered. I'm coming in, and I'm shit. My typical seat is taken, so I have to sit next to it. And I've realized I don't have my intention.
Oh, shit.
Oh, shit. Like, I'm the organizer. I'm supposed to be the guy who has everything put together, right? And I don't even know. I can't really claim. So it's my turn to get up, and I'm kind of walking slowly and just rushing in my brain. What is my intention? What is my intention? So I thought I was very clever. I came up with my intention. I said, I want to experience conscious living because I have a radio show called Conscious Living. I have a company that organizes events called Conscious Living Network. So, I've been in the field. So, oh my God, I'm so smart. I came up with an answer. I want to experience conscious living. So, I'm so proud of myself. Nobody obviously knows what's happening in my mind, in my monkey mind, but so I drink my ayahuasca. I said, I want to experience conscious living. I sit, and normally, like I said, it takes about 40 minutes for everybody to drink and to, share what their intention is. And normally, I'm usually fully aware, and then we turn the lights off, and the medicine starts working, and there's psychedelic experiences that are happening usually approximately 45 to an hour from the time when we start drinking. So everybody finishes and turn the light is off. And in this particular day, for whatever reason, the medicine started working on me within a few minutes. Like,
wow.
I drank, I sit down, everybody, most people are not even finished yet, and I'm already starting having an experience. And what's happening with me is my consciousness is fully erased. I have no awareness of anything. I don't know who I am. I don't know where I am. I don't know what I'm doing. The only thing that there is some form of awareness is that I'm completely confused and very in this confused state of suffering, not knowing anything. Not know It's like wanting to know but not knowing, and this experience of confusion. So everything, all the sensation that I was experiencing, because the light was still on, people were getting up, but I couldn't make out what is this. I could recognize people from the floor, from the ceiling, from the building, from the anything. There are sounds, people are talking, sharing their intentions, but it's a garble for me. It's a confusing sensation. I'm not even able to distinguish between visual sensation from audible sensation. It's a complete lack of awareness or understanding of ability to being present to what's happening in the moment. And eventually they turn off the lights, and I'm sitting in this confused states for like hours, and it's like extremely extreme suffering is confusion. It's like not knowing anything. And eventually, probably a couple hours later, I start getting those kind of almost like feels like a downloads. If analogy of computer is like, you're a man. Oh, I'm a man. And I know instantly what it means to be a man, distinction between men and women and, child and adult and all these kind of things. Is, oh, I know something. I'm a man. You're a husband. You're an employee. You're whatever. You're a father. So all those concepts that we have created as human beings are starting to appear in my consciousness, in my awareness of my self-awareness of myself. You're in Peru. You're hosting a trip from North America with your friends who want to experience this, who want to learn and grow. So all of this starts. So I'm starting. Finally, I'm back to normal. I'm fully aware, and I start being aware of this queasy feeling in my stomach. And so I'm just in my mind, there's this, oh, I have a stomach ache. And there's almost like a sound behind. So there's almost like my consciousness and my super consciousness is trying to communicate. And this super consciousness asks me a question, what if it's not? What do you mean, what if it's not? I can feel it. I can feel it. It's a pain in my stomach. I was unconscious up till now, but now I'm conscious. Don't play with me. I know what I'm experiencing. It's stomach pain. And this gentle, loving, calm voice asks me, what if it's not? And I get more and more frustrated. Like, how could you, like, I know what I'm feeling. I'm conscious. I'm aware. It's a stomach pain. And another question, what if it's not? So I give up. And as I kind of allow myself to ask this question, okay, what if it's not pain? What if it's not stomach pain? And instantly, whenever I allowed myself to experience, to open myself to a different interpretation of the sensation that I have in my body, I felt I'm pregnant.
Oh, wow.
So this is so from feeling uncomfortable, in pain, trying to push it away, being unhappy, to this excitement. Oh my God, I'm pregnant. But it's not the pregnant like a woman is pregnant with a child. Is this awareness that there is something in me that I'm going to give birth to, that I'm going to bring to this world something new that is going to come out of me. So I'm giving birth. There is this process and this excitement. Like, I'm sure you gave birth to two beautiful boys. I'm sure you remember this excitement if you wanted to have kids, and eventually one day you find out that you're pregnant, you're having. So this is this son wanting to give birth, and now knowing that this is starting, this process is starting. I'm pregnant. I'm going to give birth to something new. So my awareness or my consciousness of the state changed instantly from pain, suffering, wanting to push it away, being unhappy about it, to being excited, being so happy, so energized by the
Would you
thought.
say in this point, I just want to make it clear, were you saying like that your superconscious was telling the subconscious, which was believing it to be something else? It was changing that in that moment?
Oh, well, not subconscious. It was to my conscious. My consciousness was sure that that was pain.
Mm-hmm.
That was the interpretation, because consciousness is only comparing the information that is aware of based on the past experiences. So, okay, we put a label on whatever we experience in the moment, that this is what it is. And my, let's call it super consciousness, was inviting me, because I was under influence of medicine. The super consciousness was inviting me to allow myself to be present to this sensation, to this experience, without putting a label, without naming it, allowing myself to see it differently.
So you got the gift. That's your gift from that experience.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And so that eventually faded away, and so it was kind of the first of many experiences that I had in the future, and I'm still inviting that until now. That was like a birth of my capacity, or my experiential ability to stop labeling, stop naming, stop assuming that what is happening, that I know what is happening to me, allowing myself to be present to other possibilities that can be experienced out of it. So a few minutes later, this passed away. I'm sitting in this gratitude of this new awareness, of this new learning, of this new possibility, and I start feeling that I've noticed that I've been sitting in the way I'm sitting right now, in my lotus position, on the floor. And when I started a few hours earlier, I had pillows under it, but obviously I must have moved to the point where I'm sitting on the hardwood floor, and my pillows are away, and I'm aware of the fact that my knuckles, my knees, my bum is sitting on the hardwood floor, and I'm aware of the pain, the pressure that I had for a few hours on that hardwood floor is starting to feel painful. So again, as I start twitching, moving around, stretching, it's like being aware that there's this pain. And it's like before I was so excited about this experience with my redefining the sensation in my belly that I wasn't aware of it. So it was in my subconscious. Now it brought up to that pain, that experience started appearing in my awareness. Okay, I'm in pain. And again, this voice of superconscious started asking, what if it's not this time? I'm not even arguing. I said, oh yeah, bring it on. What if it's not? Okay. So now, instantly, whenever I allow this to happen, there's this image of, like, Mother Earth extending her hands and holding me in the space, holding me as this, this um, individual, this life form, giving me, the air to breathe, giving me gravity so I can be in this position, giving me support. So all those points of contact where I experience pain, it turned into extreme gratitude, awareness of how dare I complain. This is a proof that the sensation that I have in those points is a proof of being held in this space, in this life, in this form, in this, on this earth, in this universe. And instead, gratitude, to the point where I started crying out of joy and gratitude, and being so happy that I have capacity to be here and now and to have this experience. And that sensation in my body is just one of many sensations that I'm able to have capacity to experience. And instead of pushing it, I can invite to see it in a different way. So in that day, that night, during that ceremony, my experience of consciousness was, it's not a destination. It's not it's a place where you get to. It's a path, continuous path, with never ending in both directions. We can push lots of our experiences into subconscious because we don't need it, and we can bring it back to our conscious, or we can push it all the way to unconscious because they're so uncomfortable or so painful with us. Or we can allow superconscious, something beyond our body, beyond our mental capacity right now, or beyond our emotion, beyond our, we can allow to expand to more, some people call it a soul's consciousness. So it's like seeing from the outside. So it's such a big, the further away we allow our awareness to flow from the past experiences, from our culture, from our programming, from our education, from whatever happened to us, for whatever we make it believe it's happening to us, the further we allow to kind of see from, then the more awareness we have of all that contributes to what we're experiencing in the moment. And we have choice to choose same sensation, different experience.
So beautiful. Well, I really appreciate that you're able to take a personal experience, because I'm not a big fan of borrowed truth. I feel anything that we're reading or that we're learning, and viewers, I think this is a really great reflection of what are you diving deeply into yourself, and why we're here to reflect you is that we want you to contribute to sharing, and we're creating feeds for that coming soon in the future. While we were talking, my third eye was just like fully open to this experience. And that happened in 2007. And I just want to reflect lightly on this for everybody, cosmically and consciously. There is something that is calling us from within. It has just a knowing. It just has a knowing, and that knowing shows up at different times. One of the first times that I was conscious in understanding a calling was I was working in a hair salon in Toronto in 1990s, and I had a lot of Tibetan monks just start to arrive. And in the salon I started to work in, there was a connection at an ABA show where I was attracted to a stage where there was a performer, and I was looking for an apprenticeship, and he just stood out in the crowd. There's a whole crowd and he stood out, and I'm like, went over there. So I'm really good at listening to what intuition tells me moment to moment, but I didn't realize that even through growing up in a hair salon, having art around me all my time, doing my master's in that, and then going into this salon, it was another portal of transformation for even my enlightenment. So reflectively, why I want to come to that story is because when I chose to get my hair cut at that show, I went to see that salon to get it fixed. And when I walked in, the first thing I saw in that salon was a Buddha on his table. And it's really funny, through my whole process while I was in there learning and I was his apprentice, like, I mean, Andrew, me and you are super close. It was like it was like me and you, but in a different form, in a different time and space, like different friends, different connections, which were really powerful in time and space. And it's interesting how like the awakening and the ascension process or consciousness has always been a very important part, because he had the Buddha waiting. I was in a Catholic family rising and then shifting, and then I was led to this Buddha, and then all these Tibetan people would start to find me. So the unveiling of consciousness in such a broad way of like from religion to the unknown, and the unveiling of my life and awakening of third eye and reflecting all this stuff, it's really the observation of the individual. And truth is something that I really don't feel is not borrowed. You know, it's a knowing that it's coming, and it's a feeling, and you learn about that super conscious voice and the timing and the timelines of all the significant aspects. And then you have this aha moment. Okay, it's my purpose to serve, my purpose to show up. So long story short, with that salon, when I left that salon, the Dalai Lama and a lot of the teachings were trying to find me at that time. And I started going to the Buddhist temples, and then I had all these nuns meet me, and I knew reflectively I was that person reflectively. And then the master of the salon, he bowed to me when I left. He always wore black. He was a master of meditation too. He bowed to me and he said, "The Buddha has left." And he gave me the Buddha. And then all the other things started to happen. So once the Buddha landed in my hands, I was meant to find the Buddha and then go on this journey. So reflectively, viewers, we've got open our first podcast here about heart-based community. We are just shedding the light on personal experiences with consciousness. We want you to contribute. We want your truth, not borrowed truth. We want you to be able to grow with us and show up and glow, and to build some nice Buddha fields, energy fields. I say this word Buddha, I'm very careful about it because people say it's a religion. It's really just the awakening of consciousness to me.
Yeah, so before we finish,
Yeah.
I definitely want to invite you to share your construct of cosmic consciousness.
Okay, so how I came across these words throughout the process of learning and growing and flowing. There was a lot of gurus, a lot of masters through this process. And because we only have a couple of minutes here, let me shed very lightly on a 30 some years process with many masters and many hours in meditation. The blessings of the Buddha Dharma brought me this word witnessing. And so through that act of watching the breath in Vipassana, and also all the dynamic methods in order to be a part of the world while being meditative and being flexible with personalities, there came the next step of understanding the breakdown in the fourth. And so Lord Buddha has described, the different aspects of the fourth, and they use the number 4 because the 4 doesn't make you think. It's more reflectively a number where it doesn't have a meaning. It just is. And so that's why they use the number, because they break down the unconscious, the consciousness, the superconscious, and then the final cosmic superconsciousness. So as we're preparing ourselves and we're doing our diligent work in being aspects of the Bodhisattva, and reflectively the aspects of just being a good human, loving, compassion, kind, open and available moment to moment, we are remembering what we are. And the unfolding of the final light of that within ourselves, in our good work, is the cosmic consciousness. So we're able to hear that super consciousness, and then the unfolding of nature, like you had your moment where you heard the calling in ayahuasca. We are just at the feet of nature, so that nature will, in perfect timing for each individual, flower cosmic consciousness.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So that being said, I know the timeline here, and I know we're recording. I don't want this to turn off. I want to make sure this is really good. Viewers, we will come into another podcast and we'll go further into this, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Namaste.